Hello, I am the ever excitable Adam, and you're joining me here for a live stream of my Wednesday Waffle for today. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pre-record like I normally do for my Wednesday Waffle, so here I am, just waffling off the cuff. So when I normally get some nice edits where I'm kind of confused about what word I mean, that won't be happening, so you get to see all the lovely juicy bits where I get it wrong. I'm also not intending, imagining many people are going to tune into this as it's live, but I hope you enjoy this later. And there's a few questions I've got to ask during this, so if you do know the answers to them, then please let me know in the comments below, and I'll be very grateful for that. So, what is my Wednesday Waffle this week? Well, there's a few things really. It's not a specific subject I was like, oh, I'd love to talk about this. It was more a collection of thoughts and ramblings that I thought I'd just kind of throw out into the ether. So I'm just going to hit the ball rolling, get the ball rolling. Like I say, this is live, so I'm gonna make some mistakes here. This is my list of things to talk about. So I'll get through this list and we'll see what's occurring. So normally on my Wednesday Waffles, I will talk about a few things. So I'll talk about what I'm painting, what I'm backing or buying, or and what I'm playing really, and then I'll get into the meat and potatoes of the discussion. But yeah, I'm not really backing anything, guys, because, well, money's for one thing, and also previously I did say that I'm actually trying to reduce this collection, so backing things would kind of go against that. Saying that though, there are a few things we are still waiting for in the post. We should be getting the Metal Gear Solid board game, which I'm really looking forward to playing and hopefully doing that on the channel for you guys to watch. Metal Gear Solid was a fantastic game back in the day. I never played the Super Nintendo Metal Gear games, but the Metal Gear Solid kind of video game I played on PC, I think, because I wasn't a PlayStation guy. And thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was a great plot, great action, adventure kind of stuff. So and anything that's got Solid Snake in it sounds amusing. So anyway, they made a board game of this, and they'd made a board game several years about this, and it was through a publisher called IDW, and then it just vanished. And I'm not quite sure what happened, but essentially all the assets were there, everything was ready, and they might have even gone down crowdfunding, but the game just vanished. Nothing was heard from it for a couple of years until last year around kind of October. Yes, I was. Hello there. I was definitely not a PlayStation guy, and I'll tell you why I wasn't a PlayStation guy. The controller. Nah. I just don't like the controller. Like I kind of was a N64 kind of guy, and you had that ridiculous kind of controller which you had to hold like this, and but the trigger button. When I was on GoldenEye, when I pulled that trigger, or Turok Dinosaur Hunter, or any first-person shooter, whenever I pulled the trigger on a Nintendo 64 controller, I felt like I was shooting somebody. Especially when you had the rumble pack. The fact you had to kind of like clip in the rumble pack, like an actual clip, that was fantastic fun. But yeah, PlayStation controls, no. I'm Nintendo or Xbox. That's me. So you learned something new about that there. But yeah, so I played Metal Gear Solid on there. Last year they basically out of nowhere called me in and were like, "Hey guys, remember there was a Metal Gear Solid game? Well, we've actually got it, and you can have it. So money, please." To quote Parks and Recreation. Essentially, Simon came out of nowhere with all these assets. This game was fully ready, and they were like, normally Simon are like, "Hey, let's go to Kickstarter and get as much money as possible." But this time they're like, "We've already got everything. We can't really think of any new expansions, so hey, pre-order it with us for X amount of money, and we'll give you, we'll throw in a Metal Gear miniature," which is like, if you've not played the game, it's a big kind of mech thing. If you imagine Robocop, the kind of mech thing in that, I can't remember what it's called. It's kind of like that, but much bigger. And they're capable of launching nukes, I think, if I remember correctly. So you get one of those in there, and you get a big kind of, I don't know if it's an art book or a storybook. A storybook. So anyway, that is on the way. And they closed address changes at the end of June, so next few months should get that, juggling imaginary balls. So Metal Gear Solid is on the way at some point. We have Hunter's AD, insert number, the ED209, I knew you'd know. Hosting a movie podcast, you must know all of the movie trivia, or you're just Googling it whilst I'm rambling on here. So what was I just talking about? Another game. This is why I don't do lives, because my memory is terrible, especially when people talk to me and I'm like, oh, train of thought gone. Another game. Hunters, AD, insert year at this point. I think it's like 1462 or something. Essentially, in this game is a kind of narrative adventure game where you are hunters hunting monsters, a bit witcherish, I think. So yeah, that's coming at some point. We've got Maladum coming. Maladum, which sounds like someone was trying to do something with my name, Adam Maladum. So Maladum is a game by the guys who did Core Space. It's a 3D dungeon crawler. I say 3D because what I mean by this is all of the you get a lovely neoprene mat you put out, which has your kind of like your level kind of map out, and then you have these really cool cardboard kind of walls that you put down, and you actually build a dungeon by looking at this little map, and you put all these things down, and it looks beautiful on the table. We had a chance, Alex and myself, to play this at the UK Games Expo with the creators, and it was so much fun. But yeah, Maladum just looks great. So that is going to be again coming to the table whenever that arrives. And I think a couple of others. Aegis 2. So Aegis is a really fun game. When I used to back Kickstarters, I backed ages ago. And ages ago, I see what I did there. So with Aegis, it's basically, if you imagine all those kind of like robot kind of cartoons you watched as a kid, where robots kind of like combine together to make bigger robots. Essentially, that is the game in a nutshell. You are playing a commander, and you have like 5 different robots, and you're going to be like attacking the other robots. And at some point, if you've got the robots next to each other, you can like combine certain ones. So you switch out their like little standees with a standee of a better version, and you've got a new kind of card for it. But the more you do that, the less units you have. So actually, there's a bit of strategy about when you actually do your combining robot phase. But anyway, they did a sequel to it. It looks absolutely fantastic, and we've got a review copy of that coming through. So yeah, looking forward to playing Aegis 2. And I really want to do for the channel when we actually film this. I really want to go full anime with us. So whenever we're doing an attack, zoom in on our faces and we'll say, "Huh, this attack." Hello, John. Yeah, like Constructicons. And as a man of a certain age, I knew you'd get that. So, yes, lots of games coming, so I'm excited about that. Now, I did mention briefly about reducing the collection. This is my collection, or some of it, because the garage is also full. It's a board game overflow. And there's also a large pile of board games that my children have over there somewhere. And yeah, this Calyx this is like a 4x4? Yeah, that's a 5x5. And as you can see, it's low bearing. It just keeps going up to the very top. And I'm reducing this entire collection down to 100 games. Blinking. So yes, I'm reducing down 100 games. I'm trying to get out games which won't hit the table. And it doesn't necessarily mean these are bad games, because I don't 100% believe there are many bad games out there. I'm not going to say there are no bad games, because some games are terrible. But some games are... so there's at least 300 games here, but do you know what? I don't know if there's 300 games or there's 300 expansions, because a lot of these games are like Resident Evil, for instance. I've got 2 boxes for this now. One is the main game, or one is an expansion. Actually, there's another expansion as well somewhere, so you get 3 boxes. So it's trying to figure out that. Arkham Horror, for instance, my lovely collection of Arkham Horror things here. Does that count as 1 game? Does that count as 6 games, because it's like 6 boxes? I'm not counting boxes, I'm counting games. But yeah, we're trying to get to 100 from however many I have. And like I say, they're not going to be bad games, or, you know, necessarily bad games. They're just games that I probably won't play again or get to the table. So far, I've already culled a couple out of my collection. Secrets of the Lost Tomb is one of the games that I donated. I say donated, I sold for monies. But yeah, I got rid of it because it was, there's a 2nd edition coming out, and I might be able to get a review copy of that, so it makes sense. And also, it's just a game that I'm not getting to the table enough to warrant when I've got so many, so many of these kind of games to play. Trying to bin off the boxes, put everything into Ziploc bags. Do you know what? I think I might have mentioned this to my better half about like just putting stuff in folders or things like that, and she was mortified. Yeah, I don't know. The problem is, John, I already don't know what I've got. So actually, reducing that further by putting them into bags, I think I would just be absolute. I'd have to have like a folder with everything in, and like you can see how organised I am already, so probably wouldn't work. But yes, so Secret Lost Tomb, that's gonzo. Terraforming Mars, I've terraformed it to death. There is no point in me terraforming it any further. It's such a great game. I really enjoyed Terraforming Mars, but it's just not going to hit the table, so it's been moved on. And another one is Zombicide Undead or Alive. I do enjoy Zombicide games. A few of the games I've covered on this channel in their kind of, I can't think of the F word I'm thinking of. Fullness. Ones I've completed, I basically were Zombicide games. So there was Zombicide Invader, where it's like a space Zombicide. That is probably my favourite one. Really good. I enjoyed painting the miniatures. Moved that on a while ago because just space. And then Zombicide Night of the Living Dead. If you are looking for a Night of the Living Dead board game, I've not played like some of the other ones they've done there, but out of the ones I played, which is one, it was actually a really good Night of the Living Dead sim. The fact the zombies aren't called zombies, are called ghouls. Well done. And yeah, it was just really well done, and I covered it all on the channel. The only thing is there's 2 levels which are broken. They could not have been play tested because I'm pretty certain I played them correctly, but it was just, yeah, it just didn't work. It was over it took longer to set up than it did to actually play, which is never a good sign. So they're the games I've got out of my collection at the moment. But of course there are more games coming into the collection because I'm using some of the funds from that to then buy games that I really wanted to play. So kind of 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, I guess. But no, I am trying to cull down the collection to a manageable amount. And at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, I'll be moving from this property to another property, which will have less board game storage. So yeah, it kind of helps now. And also, there's going to be a little junior me walking around here. Well, not walking, hopefully straight away, or that'd be pretty strange. And they're going to be kind of suckling on all the board games and destroying them like some form of puppy. So yeah, trying to reduce the collection so there's room for a child. Not that I'm going to put a child in one of these characters, but you know, I could. So, going back to my notes now. Let's talk about, before I get into the main thing. So I sometimes talk about what I'm painting, and the past few kind of videos of my Where's Your Waffle is a bit of a kind of common thread where I'm like, I'm not painting anything. And this is due to a few factors. I've got a lot of things going on in my personal life at the moment, juggling lots of things. So yeah, getting games to the table to paint. I'm actually prioritizing games to film over games to paint. But Skull Tales, still going through that. It's sitting there. But, you know, Marvel Zombicide, those miniatures look great. I have a new spray can. Get that tiny violin out, please, and I'll paint it for you. But you'll have to get in the queue. I actually got a tiny violin for my my youngest for her birthday. It wasn't a tiny one, it was a regular size one. And it doesn't work, so there's that. You got to do something with a kind of weird kind of cake thing you've got to like mash into the strings, and it doesn't quite work. Not very musically gifted, am I? Or speaking words correct. But yes, train of thought, truly lost. But painting, I have got Arkeis, I've got Marvel Zombies, Who Goes There as well, some miniatures and that. And I've got the spray paint, and I'm like, if I spray something, that means I'm intending to finish off the painting when I've already got so many games I've already half painted, I've half started. I've got a game called Vampire Hunters all the way up there, which I'm really looking forward to playing, but I wanted to do it on the channel. So before I do stuff on the channel, I normally paint it because that sets me apart from other people who just put stuff out onto channels because they're like, well, we don't have time to actually paint and film, so let's just film stuff. Whereas my stuff is like, well, I painted it up so it looks kind of alright, and hopefully people appreciate that. Well, they seem to do. So yeah, so I'm kind of like, I've got painting impotence at the moment because I'm like, well, if I do paint this, then if I do spray this, then I'm going to have to paint it. And I don't know if I can because I've got all these other, the sea of grey miniatures I have to paint. And some not all grey, but some different shades of grey. 50 shades, one might say. This is why I don't do lives. But yeah, so painting's on a bit of hiatus. So I've got a couple of questions for the general consensus out there. So one of the questions is, does anybody know of any board games out there that have plastic dinosaur miniatures and are essentially a kind of adventure game? Asking for a friend who is trying to design a game, and he's a big fan of Jurassic Park, and he was like, Adam, out of all the games you played, how many do you know that actually have plastic dinosaur miniatures? Why haven't they made one of these games yet? Why? And he just like put me up against a wall and was just asking me and shaking me. I wondered how he broke into my house at 3 in the morning, but you know, the door's wide open. So anyway, so yeah, I was like, I don't know. There was only one game I know of called Dinosaur 1944, which is one of the only few games I've ever been burnt on Kickstarter, done by a guy called Sandy Peterson, who's very well known within the board game community. He did some Dungeons and Dragons. No, not Dungeons and Dragons. I think he was the creator of something around Arkham, around Call of Cthulhu. I'm pretty certain he was the reason the Twilight Lodge is a thing. If you don't know Cthulhu, sorry for the just dropping things you don't know about. But yeah, essentially he was integral into some of the development for the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Anyway, he's created a game called Cthulhu Wars. The Ravensburg Jurassic Park game. I'm not sure. I do have the Funko kind of legacy Jurassic Park game. That does have plastic dinosaurs in it. But this Dinosaur 1944 game was a game by Sandy Peterson. He did Cthulhu Wars, which was a big Kickstarter, and I backed one of his games called Dinosaur 1944. That essentially, he had all the components. It was like, yes, we've got all the components, got the artwork, got the manuals, everything. We just need it backed, and then we can send you your games. Yeah, years later, still not a thing. It turned out they were using other Kickstarters to fulfill Kickstarters they hadn't actually fulfilled yet, or at least that's what it seemed was happening. Because yeah, they've essentially been helped out by a distribution service who are trying to get or this huge sway or swath of Jurassic Stackers Plus. Thank you. I'm going to write that down with the pen I don't have. Here it is, so I can tell my friend about another game. Yeah, so excellent. Thank you. He's developing a kind of adventure campaign game with dinosaurs, and just wanted to know if there was one already out there. So yeah. Children's game, not sure the mechanics. That surprised me, John, because you love children's games. It's your kind of level. So, the other question I had is around The Mummy. So, The Mummy, fantastic film. Arguably one of the best films ever made, according to some people. Not everyone will agree with that. But some people think it's an amazing film. They are too advanced for John, to be fair. I played board games with him, and yeah, children's games are on another level, one might say. But yeah, essentially I was having a chat, and I was trying to figure out if The Mummy existed in board game format. The only game that I could find out, indeed, the only game that I could find out that actually has The Mummy theme is one based on a cartoon series. There doesn't seem to be an actual The Mummy official game, and I'm really surprised by this, because as intellectual properties go, The Mummy is pretty well regarded, I think. Obviously not the Tom Cruise one, or you know, there are mummy games out there, like there's Horrified has a mummy in it. But yeah, talking specifically the, I think, 1999 movie with Brendan Fraser in and all those other beautiful people. And yeah, like I'm just surprised there isn't a game, because it seems like a game you could easily do. You just need to, you either do something Arkham Horror-ish, where you basically got or like Pandemic style, where you've got like a big map and then you're going around the map and you're stopping things from happening, or you go a bit more in depth with something like a kind of, you could do something like Arkham Horror, where you've essentially got different scenarios and you're building a deck of people and you're going against certain things. That might be fun. Or you could even go down the route of something a little simpler in between that, where you've got like a storybook and each kind of like page is a level in the whole kind of film. I know there's a few games that do that, like I think the Labyrinth board game, there's a Goonies board game that does that. Obviously Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion, that does that, but it's obviously not a movie yet. I think they will do that as a Netflix TV show. That's my prediction, putting out there. There's going to be a Netflix animated TV show of Gloomhaven. I've literally just thought of that. If that happens, you owe me a Coke. Okay, so yeah, if you can think of any games that are like or are The Mummy, not aware of the Mummy game, but the wrap-up could take a long time. Or a Book of Amun-Ra, Book of the Dead style book. I mean, that's the thing. If you were going to do it, and you'd have to do it properly. So it'd be like, oh, it looks the part. So yeah, let me know if you can think of any games like The Mummy. Which, you know, actually brings me on to the two kind of games I'm talking about here on my Wednesday Waffle for today. And thank you for joining me, by the way. It's lovely to have some company. So don't just be rambling at a screen. There's actually people on the other side. So, the two games I want to talk about. So this is first impressions. I'm going to talk about some games that I played. One of them I actually did play a long time ago, but until I started playing, I'd forgotten I'd played it. So that kind of says a lot about it. But we're going to go to Arkeis first. So Arkeis, I'm going to rewind time a little bit. And basically a while ago, I don't know how many years, probably one of the first UK Games Expos I went to, I witnessed something I was very intrigued by. What it was a dungeon crawling game which was set in ancient Egypt. Well, not ancient Egypt, sorry. We're talking about Egypt. So we're talking like kind of pulp adventure kind of time. We're talking The Mummy, the 1999 one. Or we're talking, you know, Indiana Jones. Essentially a temple crawl. People, little miniatures, going through a temple, doing things, fighting monsters, that kind of thing. So obviously there are a few games out there like that, like Secret Boss 2, which I mentioned previously, which is a great game, just don't have it anymore. There are other games that kind of do that kind of thing, but I saw this game there and I was like, this looks really cool. And I think it's not the same game that I have now. I think it was something like Ankh or something like that. I can't remember what it was called, but I remember looking for afterwards and it just kind of vanished. So maybe this game I have now is actually what that game turned into. I don't know. Maybe I should do some research before I start talking. But Arkeis is essentially a game where you are playing as kind of explorers in 1930s Cairo, Egypt, and you're going around and you're basically you've learnt about a pharaoh that is not in any history book. So obviously, as an Egyptologist, you're already intrigued by this. You set out on an expedition to find out as much as you can about who this pharaoh was and why he was kind of removed from the history books. Straight away, I was just from the plot, I was like, this sounds pretty cool. The actual game itself is fantastic because you've got like 4 table presence, which is how good it looks on a table. How, you know, when someone's walking past, they'll stop and go, wait, what's that game? And also when you're playing the game, it just looks cool when all the components are just lovely. So in this one, you've got some cardboard kind of like trays, which represent the different rooms of your temple. And these plastic doors you connect together, so these kind of cardboard trays can stick together. Build yourself a little temple. And then you're using your miniatures and you're going through and you're searching different rooms, fighting scarabs and various different other kind of entities, and trying to complete the scenario that you're in. So each scenario it'll take between half an hour to an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on how many players you've got. Plays up to 5, by the way. Each character has a different ability, and yeah, you're going to be searching physical things on the map. So if there's something to search, there'll be a little kind of like token, which has got what you're searching in. And then for each scenario, you have a box of cards, which is kind of sealed up. So you have to open it up. So there's a bit of exploration in there as well. So you're going to open it up, you're going to get them out, and they'll all have symbols on the back of them. So whenever you search a particular thing, there'll be a symbol in the deck of cards you have. You flip that over, and one of you will read out what happens. So they're like, oh, you find a kind of tomb robber, and there's something clutched in his hand. Will you try to take it? And then you have an option about trying to take it, or whether you want to just leave it where it is. If you leave it where it is, you just put the card back, and that token's available for somebody else to check out. And obviously, if you're going around ancient Egypt kind of tombs and stuff, chances are you probably don't want to be like stealing too much because of traps. And there's a few times when I've triggered traps playing this game, and it's been pretty fun, to be fair. So overall, I'm really enjoying this game so far. There's a narrative through there. There's a bit of legacy elements into this, and that kind of, I know that I'm not as keen on that, if I'm honest, in this case. Now, I quite enjoy legacy games, which are games where you're going to play 15 games of a game, and that's the end of the game. You'll never play it again. You're going to rip up cards as you go, add stickers to the board, absolutely demolish everything. And it's going to look like you just, left the game out, and with a toddler, you come back and the toddler's scrawled all over it. And I quite like legacy games. But in this instance, I don't really want to put stickers on things, because I want to play this game multiple times. And that sounds strange, because normally with games, I don't really want to play them multiple times. I'm pretty much like, play this game to fruition, especially if it's a campaign game, then I'm not going to touch it again. But this kind of time, I'm like, oh, this is really good. There's so many different people I know I'd like to play this game with. And obviously, I'd love to film it on the channel for you guys. So you can play it kind of, through me, as it were. I could be your avatar. And yeah, so it's great. It's great fun. My first impressions of this game are very good. There's replayability in this game, because even from just the tutorial scenario, depending on your dice rolls, you are going to have different outcomes. Also, depending on how long you take to do the mission, you could actually end up not completing it and having a negative effect at the end of the mission. You've got a kind of journal, like a journal book, which is basically all the different missions you're doing in this, which I think there are about 10 of them. And at the back of each of these missions, there's a little kind of little chart with different symbols on. At certain points in the game, you'll be rolling 2 dice, and depending on what are on the dice, you're going to fill out these symbols. And if you can manage to fill out a line of these symbols, you get a special card. So it's replayability in that sense, because you might not always get the special card from those levels. But yeah, Arkeis, great. Is it something that is widely available? No. This is something that was a Kickstarter, and then the only place you can find this from is a place called Board Game Guru, which do not buy from Board Game Guru. I have bought one game from there, and the other game I tried to buy was Arkeis, and yeah, that did not end well. So yeah, highly recommend, if you're going to buy a board game, do not buy it from Board Game Guru. This is the only place you can find this that isn't eBay. I'm hoping they'll get a general release at some point, but it doesn't seem like that's the case because it's been out for a while now. But yeah, Arkeis, fantastic fun. If you get a chance to play it, give it a go. If you know me personally, you want to have a go of it, then let me know and I'll arrange it and we can have a game. But yeah, Arkeis, great fun. Closest thing to a mummy board game that is out there that I've seen. So yeah, watch this space. I may change my mind as I play more of it. But at the moment, I sat down last night with the kids. We played the tutorial. They were all really into it, so we're going to carry on with that. But do I paint it, guys? Do I sit down and paint it? The miniatures are great. The whole kind of aesthetic is it's kind of Egyptian meets kind of technology. So it's kind of like a bit punk, steampunkish, steampunk Egyptian. That's essentially what they've gone for. Easy for you to say, John, painting it. Well, maybe I will, maybe I won't. We'll see. So the other game I want to talk about is Who Goes There, or Whom Goes There, if we're being grammatically correct. So essentially, the film The Thing is one of my favourite films of all time. And I actually thought, here's a question. If you only one film could exist between The Thing and Aliens, which film would you choose? And I honestly can't answer that because both of those films are close to my heart in different ways. The Thing being an absolutely fantastic film. And if you want to know about the production of it, check out Verbal Diorama, who does a very good podcast on all of the films that you want to know stuff about. Highly recommend checking out. Recently stumbled into that. It's very, very informative podcast. Award-winning as well. But yeah, The Thing, there's a few board games out for it. So I became aware of a game called Panic Station a long time ago. I own that somewhere in this collection somewhere. And that was a 3 to 5 player game, and it was kind of like similar to The Thing, but it didn't really have the same plot. There was androids involved and stuff. I enjoyed that. But I was kind of surprised that I don't actually own a copy of The Thing. So there's a few Thing board games out there. There's The Thing. There's The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31, and there's Who Goes There. Who Goes There is a game by Certifiable Studios, which is based on the book as opposed to the film. Might be because they couldn't get the rights, or maybe they're trying to stand out from the official Thing game and The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. I do believe there's some other Thing board games out there, but I don't know what or whom they are. So if you do know what they're called, let me know in the comments below. I'd hate to list off board games and and just miss one out. So Who Goes There is a kind of cooperative game where you are fully paranoid in this game. You are trying to last 14 rounds to get onto a helicopter. To do this, you basically just have to survive. The problem is, not all of you are going to end up human. So you start off human. So at the beginning, everyone's happy to help each other out and kind of interact with each other, trade items, and generally go out your way to help people. However, what happens in the game is you become vulnerable. So vulnerable happens when you're kind of attacked by one of the Thing monstrosities outside, or maybe somewhere inside somebody kind of attacks you or something. But essentially, yeah, the board game's going to be attacking you with various different monsters and horrible things. And if you manage to fail a defense roll from one of these attacks, you are going to be picking up a vulnerable card. Have you played games like Don't Look Back or Violent Dark? I've honestly never heard of either of those games, but I will make a note of that. I'll go back to the comments because it's vanished now and I can't see from my YouTube live. I'll have a look at those games and look into them. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. So when you get vulnerable, you're going to take a card from this 12 card deck. Now, these 12 cards, 11 of them are blank. One of them has a blood splatter. If you draw the blood splatter, you've now become infected. You are now the thing. And your objective is to get onto the helicopter with at least one human. So you can obviously infect everybody else if you want to, but if everyone's infected, then nobody wins. So I've played this game, and the general idea is once you get to the very end, so you last 14 rounds, you may be completely, clear. You might not be infected at all, but you might have several vulnerable cards. You can have 5 vulnerable cards in your in front of you. Other people might have 4, somebody else has 2 or whatever. And one person might only have 1 vulnerable card, but even with just 1 vulnerable card, they could be the thing. So there's this whole paranoid kind of who do you help out with this? And obviously the more cards you have, the less trustworthy you are, because there's more chance you have got the blood splatter thing. And you don't want to do things like sleeping in the same room as that person every so many rounds. You don't want to be sharing things with them in case they give something to you. But yeah, so you're going through 14 rounds of trying not to get infected. And then once you get to the helicopter phase, you whoever the leader is basically gets to decide who's going to be going into the helicopter. Now, if you don't trust the leader, before we get to that phase, you basically, all of you have a little discussion going, do we still trust the leader? And if you trust the leader, great. If you don't trust the leader, it then goes around in turn order, and you basically discuss everybody, and you basically discuss who's actually going to be the leader. Once the leader's decided, then you discuss everyone else who's going to come on the helicopter. And this is where the game kind of falls apart, unfortunately. You could have been playing a fantastic game of being human. You're human throughout, and just because of an arbitrary decision, you are kicked out of the helicopter. Or you could be the thing and been doing a fantastic job of hiding the fact you're the thing, but still get booted out because, unfortunately, you're not good as fast talker as other people on the team. So that's fine. There's a bit of politics over that and stuff like that. I don't mind that so much about deciding who's going to the helicopter. But what happens next? According to the rules, as I understand them, at the beginning of the game, you're told there is a threshold for the helicopter. And the threshold is 6 times the amount of players in the game. Now, what that essentially means is if you've got 4 players, you need to get 24 as your kind of total points at the end of the game so you can successfully get in the helicopter and go back to civilization. So you get points by, at the very end of the game, anyone who is on board the helicopter gets a roll of dice, which goes up to 6. So you can be adding up to 6 from this dice. The other way you get it is by cards. Now, during the game, there's an inside and outside. Outside's more dangerous, but going outside, you can actually search. And when you're searching through these cards, you're going to be finding helicopter bonus cards, which will add to your bonus in the game. So far, if you're following me, we have bonus cards, which can be 1, 2, or 3, and your dice at the end. So if you've got 3 bonuses and you've got a dice, there's a high chance you're going to get home to civilization. So every human player who is on board that helicopter is going to be rolling dice and trying to get over that initial value of 24. And if there's only 3 people on the helicopter, or 2 people, that's a very tall order to do. Especially if one of those people on the helicopter is the thing. Because if one of the people on the helicopter is the thing, essentially as soon as the helicopter phase comes where you're like, right, we're on the helicopter, we decided to leave Commander Gary down below, but everyone else is on the helicopter. As soon as that happens, you then reveal if you are in fact the thing. And at that point, the human players roll their dice, add their bonus helicopter total, and they have to beat that threshold. So let's say we're all on the helicopter, and 3 of the players are human, 1 of the players is not so human, and they managed to roll between them with all the points and stuff. They managed to roll 24. So they've met that threshold. Fantastic. Not so much, because the thing then gets to roll their dice and add their helicopter bonuses, and they're subtracted to the value. Now, if the value of the threshold is not met and there is a thing on board, then the thing wins. If the threshold is not met and there's only humans, then everyone loses. it just seems very unfair in the sense of the thing. If they manage to get in a helicopter, chances are it's game over. There's no way you can possibly win that, especially if you have to get a very high total like 24. The game is minimum 3 players, and in the core game there's only 4 players in there. So it's always going to be a pretty high... Hello, Matt! It's going to always be a very high kind of like threshold to try and beat. I played this the other day, a 4-player game. I was the thing, got infected on my very second kind of turn. I was rolling terribly. I managed to infect one other guy. I was left behind. The other guy was on the helicopter, and the other guy was able to actually reduce the value down. So, yeah, the thing won in the end. But it just, I don't know, the game kind of fell apart when you got to the finale, which to me, that should be the bit they work the hardest on to make sure the finale is satisfactory. When you've been spending, you know, an hour and a half to 2 hours playing a game, you want that kind of the final payoff to actually be worth it. So it's a shame. I'm not kind of like giving up on Who Goes There. I think that actually I had fun playing it, and I think I'd love to play that game again with the same group. I'm also trying to source the expansions because each expansion adds an additional 2 characters to it. You can only play the game up to 6 characters, I believe. But yeah, I'd like to play this game at 6 players to see how it works. Don't Look Back is Final Girl the Skirmish board game, while Violent Dark is Sci-Fi Alien Predator Final Girl the Skirmish board game. Are they both Final Girl? Because Final Girl, if it's the Van Ryder game, wasn't a fan. Mainly because thematically I wasn't really immersed in it. But yeah, I've heard there's a couple of kind of thing. There's definitely one which is based on the thing, which is in Final Girl. Both are horror. Big fan of the old horror. But yeah, I think Who Goes There? It's got some potential. I think there are definitely. I know there are definitely house rules on. There's house rules for Who Goes There on Board Game Geek, where instead of just rolling off dice at the end, there's like a final fight on board the helicopter. So I might try those rules out if it doesn't work with the regular rules. You shouldn't have to house rule a game to make it fun, but sometimes needs must. Now, will Who Goes There be one of the games that I keep in my collection of 100 games? I don't know yet. Arkeis at the moment is, but we'll see after I played it. Okay, yeah. So Don't Look Back. Actually, I do think I know what that is, because yeah, that is a slasher horror skirmish game, like Warhammer, but instead of Warhammer, you know, like Space Marines or whatever, you're using one slasher versus campers and stuff. Yeah, that does look a pretty cool system. I don't think it's available in the UK anymore. Maybe PDF, I don't know. Maybe we'll look into getting that. But yeah, so they're the 2 games that I wanted to talk about, really. So Arkeis, obviously, I really enjoyed that. I'm really looking forward to getting back to the table. Who Goes There? I'm actually quite excited about playing that again, but I might wait until I've got the expansions, which is proving very hard to track down. So we'll see, I guess. Jury is still out on that. But yeah, that's about it from me for this Wednesday Waffle. Thanks for joining in, guys. I've got lots on my plate at the moment. There should be some more videos coming out for you guys to consume with your eyeballs and wherever else you want to consume them. Want to do a quick shout out for 2 podcasts that I absolutely adore. So it's the Offline Gamer with Matt and Karen, which is just fantastic board game stuff. And there's also one I discovered very recently by the lovely Em, which is Verbal Diorama, where she goes into all of the trivia that you never knew, that you needed to know about movies. I've listened to a couple of them so far, and really interesting, and she's also award-winning, so congratulations for winning Best Podcast Ever, I think, or something like that. Brand new rule for both, available as PDF. Like I said, haven't played them yet, but you're still investigating. Well, David Herbert Coleman, let me know if it is worth my while. But yeah, it does sound pretty good. The images I've seen of Don't Look Back look pretty cool. Trying to get the official miniatures over here is tricky, I think. But yeah, to be fair, I've got enough kind of miniatures around here. I've got Lobotomy, to be fair, and that has got... I'm pretty certain I've got like a couple of kind of horrible slasher miniatures for that I could use to repurpose. for Don't Look Back. But yeah, plenty to come on the channel, guys. Shadows of Brimstone, Dungeon Saga, forgot the name of it, and Age Contrived. If you like Euros games, play that with Man Karen from the Offline Game. A great fun video will be up soon. Congratulations to Pandora Celeste for all of their kickstarting. That looks such well, I played it. It was a really fun game, and it looks like they're doing really well on Kickstarter, so that's fantastic. And yeah, also Outbreak. If you like zombie games, check out Outbreak on Kickstarter. I think that's literally just funded. We played on the channel. You can see a video of us playing that, but that was a really fantastic game where you're trying to reclaim society from the undead. Pretty much like the Labour government are doing at the moment. A little political joke there for people. Anyway, I've been the ever excitable Adam, and I'm going to go back to my doldrum life here and carry on with whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm going to awkwardly turn this off now because lives, you can never make these look professional because I'm not professional. I've been the ever excited about them. Until next time, guys, stay safe or die rolling. Here I go. Wish me luck, guys. Over the lens.